What's up, TCC, TU, and ORU? It is Samson here for an episode of The Fitting Room, and I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to this episode. We're here in the summer season, and all these individuals who are deciding to share their stories during the summer, we just are going to say a special thanks to them because they could be on vacation or doing other things, but they decided to share their story with us. And so we say thank you. And today we have a very, very special guest with us. Her name is Emily. Emily, what's up?
Hey.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, girl.
Very, very special.
Yes.
So my name's Emily. I'm a student at TCC. This will be my third year. I know TCC is like a second year, but I haven't been full time. Life gets kind of crazy sometimes. So
yep, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I'm going on my third year in a summer class this semester. Hopefully gonna knock the rest of those classes out pretty soon.
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up. Well, definitely thank you for taking the time to be willing to come on this podcast and
yeah, of course.
be willing to share your story. And so without further ado, tell us, girl, how'd you get here?
Truly, like, by the grace of God and by his faithful pursuit is the only way that I'm here right now. TCC wasn't my first choice in a college at all. So I think that might be a good place to start since we have students on here. I feel like maybe some other people like felt that way. Maybe some people were like, oh yeah, I really want to go to TCC. I was not one of those people. I wanted to go to a school in Kentucky because that's where I grew up. And I went and toured this college and I fell in love with it. And then God shut the door hard on that one and opened up the doors to TCC. I actually also went to like an orientation at TCC and I was like, I hate it here. And I left early. And now I'm on that exact campus.
Oh, man. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm following correctly.
Yeah.
You grew up in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And you're here in Tulsa. And you wanted to go back to Kentucky for school, went out there, fell in love with the campus. You went to orientation at TCC. It was like, it's not this place.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that door gets closed to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And you end up at TCC.
Yeah. So,
oh, man.
Yeah. My mom is from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and my dad is from the Sticks in the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. It was totally a God thing how they met, but so my whole life has been back and forth, visiting family. And there's a college up there, a little college called Berea, and it's a really great little college. And I just was like set on going there after I graduated, and God shut the door on that. Man,
so how was that experience when God shut that door? Were you I'm imagining there was a disappointment, but was it kind of confusion? Like, and I'm also kind of curious as to what that door shut looked like.
Yeah.
If you're willing to go into it.
Yeah, of course. So I think I forgot to share this, but I'm an education major. Oh gosh, I want to go all over the place right now. I'm an education major. I decided in my senior year, I was like, okay, God's putting it on my heart to be a teacher, and so I guess I'll do it. So they have a great program up there. Actually, this college, at first I was resistant to it. But my mom was like, Emily, just try it. You'll love it. And and so I did. And then I fell in love with it. And then my mom was like, oh, well, I'm not so sure about you, like, being so far from us. Like, then she started having second thoughts, and I was like, come on now.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Yeah, and it literally, like I didn't get any, like, responses back. Like, I was emailing, I was calling, and, like, just, like, it was, like, crickets. And then, like, lo and behold, I get, like, the acceptance letter from TCC with a little confetti thing, and it was like, woo, and I was like, oh.
Oh man, that's crazy. So they're not picking up the phone, they're not emailing back, they just
nothing.
They just ghost
me basically. And I'm positive because, like, everyone it's a small school too. Like, I think the Lord was just, like, blocking my calls.
Yeah. No, for real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially considering I find that usually like a lot of small schools will be a lot more aggressive in their
Yeah,
approach to getting people. And so it's interesting to hear that
yeah,
there was kind
for
of this
sure.
silence.
For sure. Because like when I went and met with them and everything, it was like good to go, good to go. And then it was like all of a sudden I come back to Oklahoma and it's like I don't hear a word. So
Man.
yeah.
So you mentioned education being the space that you are currently in, the degree you're going towards.
Yes.
So tell is this something that you've always wanted to do, or is this?
No. And I mean, I think that's a pretty big part of my story, just that I have such a resistant heart and I didn't realize that. And there are so many things that I told God I would never do. And yeah, like you know what happens when you tell God no. He was like, "Well, we're gonna find out." Um, so I come from a family of teachers. Like my mom's a teacher. On like her parents and my dad's parents, like both
Oh wow.
teachers. My aunt and uncle teachers. Like I just come from a family of teachers, and so with that, like I I wasn't like against teaching. I love teachers.
Mm-hmm.
But with that and with my own struggles in school, I was like, this is something that I'm not interested in and I could never do.
Yeah.
Because I struggled a lot in school. And I was like, I just, like that's not what I'm equipped with. And senior year, it was literally like God put it so heavy on my heart that I couldn't ignore it.
Man, that's amazing. I mean, it's interesting to hear that your whole fam is kind of like
Yeah.
just dunked into the teacher space, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you get this call and you feel inspired that this is the direction.
Mhm.
Okay, so with teaching being the space that what are you maybe looking most forward to? Is there something that you're looking forward to in that space, or is it that you're kind of just following what God impresses on you?
So kind of both. It's kind of like what I'm looking forward to is what God has been like putting on my heart. Like I said, I struggled a lot in school, and that's because come to find out I have ADHD and dyslexia.
Yeah.
And that in itself was a struggle to get diagnosed. I was in public school, and then I did homeschool, and I did online school, and then went back to public school. And so like all of those years just trying to figure out how I learn. I went back to public school when I was in 6th grade.
Mm.
I thought I would hate it and end up doing homeschool again, but I don't know. I guess I liked it. I guess I liked it. Okay, so I stayed.
Okay, so I guess I'm curious as to, so you find out about the ADHD,
Yeah.
dyslexia. Did being surrounded by teachers help or hinder that kind of exploration of, okay, now I have this, how do I move forward in my educational journey?
Mm-hmm. So from what I remember is, I remember my parents telling me like in kindergarten and stuff, like my teacher just would be like, she's so smart, but she doesn't retain anything.
Hmm.
And so like, I don't know if they were thinking it was just maybe I mean, it is a learning delay, but a different kind. But when I'm trying to remember, I think it was around 5th grade, and I was homeschooled at this point, that I officially got diagnosed with both of them. And it wasn't that I wasn't retaining exactly, it's that I couldn't read.
Mm.
And then you put ADHD in that, and that's if you don't know what it is, it's attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. And so and so I'm just like fidgety, and I need to stand up, and I can't sit and focus, and then on top of that I can't read. But I think I loved my teachers. I loved school. It just kind of felt like school didn't love me back. I remember looking around at the other kids in 3rd grade, like in our classroom, and like they all knew what was going on. They all knew what to do, and I just felt so lost. I was like, how do they all know this stuff?
Yeah.
So and then I think like being homeschooled for a few years was beneficial, because at that point I didn't have my diagnosis. I don't remember all the reasons. I was little, but it was hard to get my diagnosis. Now they're diagnosing kids in 2nd grade, so that's great for them.
Yeah.
But being homeschooled for me personally, and since my mom was a teacher, an elementary school teacher, she had the curriculum and everything. But so we did a lot of things, a lot of hands-on learning. That's how I learned. So I don't think it hindered it, but I think it was very frustrating. I mean, because in public school, without a diagnosis, without an IEP, there's only so much you can do, you know?
Yeah. There's something that you said that I don't know, but I just feel like my heart resonated with, and that was you loved school, but you didn't feel like school loved you back.
Yeah.
And I guess part of me is just curious as to how did you end up coming down to a place where now you want to go into education, where I'm wondering if there was any change that took place that
Yeah,
brought that.
there absolutely was. So let's see, third grade, I was in public school, fourth grade and fourth grade, because I did it twice. I was homeschooled and then online school. And then fifth grade, homeschool, and sixth grade is when I go back to school.
Yeah.
And going back to public school, at this point, my family had moved to Oklahoma because I lived in Kentucky. Now we're in Oklahoma, and sorry, I'm blanking.
No, you're good. You're good.
And going back into it, one of my biggest fears was that I was going to re-experience what I had before of just not understanding. My mom and dad have been relentless in like fighting for me.
Mm-hmm.
They have always been like, you are smart, you're just different, and that's okay. Because my dad has ADHD as well, and probably dyslexia. I mean, let's be real. But
Yeah.
so they reached out to, they just, were trying to like find connections, and they found a lady who worked at the primary school who did like dyslexic specific work. And so that started like my little tutoring journey.
Yep.
Is like twice a week, I would walk over to the primary school and I would sit with her, and we basically deconstructed everything I had learned about reading before and rebuilt it from scratch.
Wow.
And this is in sixth grade.
Man.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It was like intense, and at the same time I felt like I was like, well, I already know all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at sixth grade, I was at a third grade reading level and comprehension. But like I would argue not even that, because a lot of people think like, oh, dyslexia is like your words get flipped upside down and stuff like that. Really, it's more auditory than you think it would be. But it's having trouble connecting and blending sounds. Like I can tell you what the letter A says, but like blending sounds together, it's really difficult. And so one thing I would do is I would memorize the shapes of words. So if you wrote a word out, but you capitalized random letters in it, I couldn't tell you what it said.
Oh.
Yeah, so we had to like literally deconstruct everything that I had learned, but like we had to deconstruct like my coping skills basically and rebuild. So like I literally remember being like, A says ah, B says buh. Like I was so annoyed. But I mean, that's what it took.
And this is with like a teacher of yours where like y'all are breaking all this down.
Yeah.
And this is like detail, like y'all are going back to the roots.
Yeah. And I was her guinea pig too, because she was so interested in it. But she like I was the first student that she actually did like one-on-one tutoring with. So it was kind of cool.
So, man, is this a teacher that you continue to stay connected to like throughout the next couple years, or was this okay, this is cool?
Yeah, I only had her as like my like dyslexia tutor, because she worked for the way younger grades and I was in middle school. But yeah, I tutored with her 6th through 8th grade, and like I said, 6th grade I was at a 3rd grade reading level and comprehension. By 8th grade I was at a 12th grade level. So yeah, which like I can't even tell you, like I remember getting those results back from my test and I was just in tears, because it was like just like oh my gosh, I did it. Like, I can read.
Yeah.
And I mean, since then, most of the battle as far as my neurospiciness goes is just like breaking down the things that I have told myself for so long, like that I'm not smart, that I can't read.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, we can read. We don't need to be afraid of reading in front of people anymore.
Shout out to teachers.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean that's that's amazing work to be
Mhm.
able to not just figure out how to help a student, but to be invested enough
Mhm.
and patient enough to say, like, and to be innovative enough to be
Mhm.
like, hey, I haven't done this before, but I think this might work.
Yeah.
This is this is amazing. And I
Yeah.
guess it almost kind of seems like maybe that's some of the spark that helps you on your journey of figuring things
Yeah.
out.
I mean, even after that, like, 8th grade, I'm about to go into high school, and I get those results, and they're like, you're already at a 12th grade. And that was just incredible to me. But I still was like, I have no idea what I want to do. Or I wanted to go into business and like open a little restaurant and
Yeah.
everything. Um, but then it was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I guess normal teen things like self-doubt and all of that. Um, and I had some really good teachers. My science teacher in middle school is like, shout out to Miss Stanley. I give her a lot of the credit for who I am today, because she was one of the teachers that aside from like my tutor, but like that actually like took my IEP seriously, that cared
Mm-hmm.
about it, and she didn't let me get off the hook easy. Like, that's kind of a stigma, is that if you have an IEP, like, you're gonna get off easier, you have easier work. It's not. It is not easier. It is that I'm working that much harder, not harder than anyone else, but harder within myself to be at the same place.
Yeah.
And so she still pushed me and everything. But what I was saying is, like, yeah, it really wasn't until my senior year of high school that I was like, dang, I want to be a teacher. And it's like, well, teach what? And I'm like, anything but reading. Fast forward, and for the next 2 years after I graduated, I
Mm-hmm.
worked at the intermediate school as a reading tutor. Yeah.
It's funny when you see these full circle moments where it's
Yes.
like anything but this. That's gonna be what you go into.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah. And there was, I mean, going into that, there was some doubts. But I worked under the AmeriCorps program, which has
Mm-hmm.
just been shut down.
Oh man.
Yeah. So if anyone isn't aware of that, the AmeriCorps program has been shut down. But I worked under the education branch as a reading tutor.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are so many kids. There are so many kids that like I can see, and I'm like, we're not supposed to self-diagnose. But there's some kids that I'm like, yeah, you should go get that checked out. And then there's some kids that just like, they're the COVID babies. Like
Yeah.
they're behind. And I remember especially the first year working with them, I'm working with like 3rd through 5th grade. And I would be reading and I would make mistakes and I'd be like, oh my gosh, no. And like just kind of like beating myself up because I'm the teacher.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my 3rd graders going, it's okay, Miss Emily. You say that we all make mistakes. And I'm like, that's right. We all make mistakes. So that was a big turning point. And when I was like, if these kids are comfortable enough to like read out loud to me
Yeah.
and to trust me with their insecurities, because half the battle, like, you can't help teach them if they're too afraid to make mistakes. And so I'm like, wow, like maybe this is something that I can do because I've experienced it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like when we kind of walk forward in these spaces, especially spaces where in the past we've experienced some struggles or
Yeah.
some battles, and we end up walking in those spaces, that oftentimes we can find encouragement to continue the work that took place, like a decade ago.
Yeah,
And it's awesome. It sounds like that's part of that journey for you.
it really is. And I didn't, like, I think back on it now, but at the time I really didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I think I even had other people, tell me like, oh, well, you could use this. And I'm like, psh, no.
I am curious about something though that you mentioned. You mentioned kind of like negative self-talk
Yeah.
that kind of pops up
Mm-hmm.
every now and then. I guess I'm curious, do you have any thoughts as to maybe where that may have originated or where that came from or what maybe caused some of that?
Yeah. I think part of it is that I'm the oldest of four. So there's that oldest sibling syndrome, oldest child syndrome. And I think, part of it is just kind of like I've always been an anxious kid, and I've always been a bit of a perfectionist.
Mm.
And I think that there was some like negative self-talk that for me kept getting confirmed over and over in my life. And it wasn't, I don't think it's anything that anyone really said to me. I think it was really just like an inner something. And, if something went wrong, I would take that as like confirmation of like, yeah, like I'm not enough. And again, like in school, I think like, how when you're in grade school and you're kind of like looking up to see who's done with their papers, I was always the last one.
Oh,
And
man.
yeah. And so that kind of, I was like, oh, well, I'm the slowest. And I couldn't read the instructions on the paper. And so I would be like looking to see what everyone else was doing, not to like copy them, but because I had to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was too embarrassed to tell my teacher. And honestly, I don't think that I knew that I couldn't read, because I was like, this is what reading is. It's hard. So I don't know. It's kind of all a blur, but I think that negative self-talk definitely just was something that I feel like it's been like, sadly enough, like in me for a long time. And then you just kind of notice things around you and I'm like, oh yeah, that's because of me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, especially, I guess the reason I was thinking this or wanting to ask that was because I just remember you talking about your parents who were like, sounds like they were really supportive and telling you,
Yeah.
hey, you may have to work harder, but, like this thing that's happening to you, like it's not, it's not saying something about you. Like you still have a calling, you still have a gift. It sounds like they were encouraging you and pushing you forward. And so I was just curious as to maybe where some of that may have came from, and that experience that you had where you had this kid that you were helping and that came and said, hey, we all make mistakes, like you say, it's okay. I just don't think like everybody gets that opportunity to hear those words from a child.
Yeah.
And you're just like, because that's encouraging. Like, I feel like that's really encouraging to hear that from a kid. And so I was just curious as to where some of that may have came from. But it sounds like it was just a combination of many things.
Yeah. I mean, my dad had struggled in school, and he got diagnosed with ADHD in his years at seminary when he was an adult. And so when they started suspecting me of having some learning differences, my dad and my mom were both very supportive of like, we want her to have all of the tools and all of the resources necessary. And my dad would tell me all the time, girls are smart. Like specifically, like girls are smart. Girls are good at math, I guess.
100%.
And I guess maybe other girls are. I'm still not the best at math, but dad says that girls are good at math. But yeah, they've always been my biggest supporters in this, and kind of learning alongside me as I've gone through it too.
Okay, no, that's what's up. That's good that you have that support system to help encourage you and push you forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so currently in your life right now, as you're navigating things, what are some things that are taking place now? Maybe some positive things, maybe some challenges that you're facing. What's going on in your world now?
Oh my gosh. Um, I feel like this year, man, it's like where to even start. Um, there have definitely been some challenges this year that I wasn't expecting. But I think it's also a place where, like, now I look back and I see God has been equipping me. Um, I mean, some things that I'm doing right now is this morning I was just at a meeting for a church camp that I'm working at that I started going to in 5th grade.
Hey.
Yeah, and so I'm going to be a lifeguard there this summer. Super excited. And so, because I lost my job with AmeriCorps, more job opportunities are opening up. So there's a little bit of anxiety there, but also like there's excitement for what's to come.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, that's what's up. That's what's up. And so this lifeguarding space and this camp that you're going to be working at, is this for what age group is this? Is this like
Yeah, so like all age groups.
all
So
age
like
groups?
Sunday we start high school camp, then middle school, then we have kids camp.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's all of
Yeah.
the above. So it's at least the correlation I'm seeing with all this is like, you're in the education
Yeah.
space, you're going to camp, like
Love
you're really invested in that space. And I guess part of me is wondering or is thinking is maybe you growing up and having that support system,
Mhm.
you growing up and having the a teacher who sat down with you and was dedicated to watching you succeed in the reading space, you
Mhm.
having that love and support all along the way. Like I wonder if maybe some of that feeds your passion for, I guess, this younger generation and helping them out.
Yeah, I believe it absolutely does. I mean, with the job opportunity that I'm even talking about right now, like when I lost my job with AmeriCorps, I was like, there's nothing else I want to do but work with kids. And I know we don't always get to do what we want to do,
Yeah.
but that was just kind of disheartening because like I felt like, oh man, I found my space. But at the same time that I was doing that, the opportunity for me to be the color guard coach for our school just kind of fell into my lap. And my sister, she just graduated this year, but at the time she was on the team, and she was like, Emily, please do it. We don't have a coach. Like please do it. And so I did. And then we kind of teamed.
Yeah.
She wrote, and I kind of stood there and was bossy.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
But she's taken that position over this year, and because I thought I'd have my job with AmeriCorps, but a position in Manford is open, and so I'm feeling like that's kind of the way that it's leading, and I get to work with kids, and I get to be creative, and kind of get to work with my sister, which would be really cool. Just kind of have like the same job. But one of the reasons that I have continued, I mean, that color guard job fell in my lap, and I've continued it because I've seen how many kids' lives have been changed.
Yeah.
Like Becca's my sister.
Yeah.
We talk all the time about this one boy that joined guard his freshman year. And he's our little success story, like, because he was uncoordinated and a little clumsy, and now he is teaching the other people, like, oh, do this. And his confidence has just, because I remember like he'd drop it and it was like, okay, come on, let's try again. And now like he'll drop it and he'll look at me and he'll be like, it's okay, we make mistakes. And I'm like,
Hey.
yeah, we do. And we pick our pole back up again.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know we've only been talking for, a couple minutes now, but I'm seeing a little bit of a trend in these spaces where it's like a student would be like, hey, okay, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. We
Yeah.
can do this again. We can pick this up again. We can keep going again. Whether it's, you reading with one of the kids, or whether it's color guard. And I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna invite you to say something.
Yeah.
But I know it might sound weird, but I just want to give you a space to say this. What encouragement, because you mentioned you enjoy working with kids, whether
Mm-hmm.
color guard, camp, or reading,
Mm-hmm.
going into the education space. If you could give one, like every kid that you connect with, one thing to hold on to when it comes to walking in life or just growing, what's the one word of encouragement that you would want them to like hold on to?
Mm. That it's okay to make loud mistakes. I think yeah, I mean, talking to you right now, I'm realizing that that has been something spoken into me. I remember I was in band, and I was a trumpet player, and well, I had a trumpet in my hand. I was literally so quiet, like you wouldn't even think I was like blowing air through the horn.
Yeah.
And I remember my band director constantly going, Emily, make your mistakes loud. I can't fix it if I can't hear it. And that rang so true. And let me tell you, starting in 6th grade, no one would have thought I would. By no means am I the most amazing, but in 8th grade, I was the trumpet section.
Come on.
So,
No, that's what's
because
up.
I was the only one. um, and I made a lot of mistakes that year, but I made them loud.
Yeah.
And I look back now, and that's the same thing, is that in tutoring, the first thing, before we could even break down, what I needed to learn, first we had to figure out what it was. And in order to do that, I had to be willing to make mistakes. And I mean, and that's the same thing in my walk with Christ. Not to get preachy, but throughout my life, I've I kind of had a pattern of hiding my sin. Everyone sees this shell of me, and so I don't, it's, yeah, we all make mistakes, but I'm gonna make them behind this veil.
Yeah.
And God has been so relentless in showing me that make your mistakes loud, not project them to the whole world, but
Yeah.
be honest, bring them into the light, because in the light is where we can fix it. When I can hear your problem, when I can see your struggle, that's when we can move forward, and that's when we can start to heal.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, girl, preach it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm just it's encouraging. I think the idea of making your mistakes loud is such a beautiful I mean, you're playing trumpet, so you literally make them loud.
Yeah.
But, I think it goes into the whole idea of confession and the beauty of it. And confession, no matter what space you're in, confession does a healing work, because once you're willing to admit something, then you can actually work on the thing. And so it sounds like that's such amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is just such an amazing. I kind of saw it myself, but I wanted to hear it from you and how you would word it. And I'm so glad I did, because the way you just worded it is very, very excellent. I think for a lot of people, when they come out of high school or they're going into the college space, they're kind of entering a space where they're on their own a little bit, where they don't maybe have parents and guardians who are going to be on them. Mm-hmm. Their grades don't go to their parents anymore. Mm-hmm. They come to them, right? There's a lot of things that can all of a sudden kind of get hidden and get quiet, and we can be discouraged. We may not want to talk about certain things, mm-hmm. but being willing to be loud about your mistakes, mm-hmm. actually can help in the momentum of moving forward. And so I just love what you shared.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a lesson that I said, I have such a resistant heart. And I'm not saying that to be down on myself, but it's just the truth, is that especially this last year, I've learned how resistant I am. I'm God has been faithful in showing me that. And so just like it's a lesson that I continue to learn.
Yeah.
That I mean, I moved out on my own at 19, and it was like through God. It really was, that like there was a space cheap enough for me to live, to be provided, that was close to my family and everything. Um, but I mean, even there, like there was a week in the winter that I went almost 2 weeks without electricity in like the coldest part of the winter because I was too afraid to admit my mistakes to my parents.
Oh man.
And when I finally did, it was just, I had bottled it up. I was freezing cold, and mom was like, "So that's why you were at our house so much." And I was like, "Well, also I love you guys." And it was warm.
No, that's real.
But yeah, and I mean, since then, like, I think since that incident, it just the act of being like, I messed up again, or hey, I made a mistake, or hey, this happened and I need help, has not been easy, but it hasn't been as hard.
Yeah. No, I love all that you're saying, because it's remarkable. And I think part of the reason why we would rather stay in a cold house for 2 weeks is because, I mean, we just live in a filtered world, and we feel like we have to hide certain things.
Yeah.
And so coming to a space where you're willing to admit shortcomings is essentially like warring against culture and saying, I'm willing to take down the filter.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, I mean, you're right, because like social media is so so filtered, and then even now there's like a movement where it's like, it's cool to be unfiltered, it's cool to like film everything, and this is the raw and the real, and I think there is beauty in that, but sometimes I even look at that and I'm like, man, but my unfiltered doesn't even compare to theirs. Like their unfiltered is like so perfect, but if people saw me, if people saw like the raw, real me, and I've said that to people and they're like, "What? No." And I'm like, "No, because I'm not showing it to you."
Exactly.
If you saw the raw, real me, if you saw the part of me that only Jesus himself knows, you would not like it.
That's the one.
Yeah. And it's convicting. It is.
Yeah. No, that's very real. So when it comes to kind of seeing your life looking forward, what are some things that you're looking forward to when it's like, just down the line of time? It could be after graduation. It could be in 50 years. Like, what are you just looking forward to?
Yeah. Right now, I am trying to be patient, and just walk alongside the Lord. I feel like I've given that answer a lot, but I'm finally submitting to it. Like I said, I've been resistant to it for so long. But like I said, I feel like a heavy burden on my heart to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel a heavy burden on my heart to speak about my story and to speak about the things that I've gone through, and to just like, I don't preach almost. I don't know for sure that I'm, called to be in a church position.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of seeing where the Lord's going to take me, because I've accepted that calling, and my prayer's just been like, open and close doors as you see fit. So I'm pursuing the education way, and whatever platform, whatever space he gives me to be a vessel for him, I will. So I'd say that's what I'm looking forward to, is just like, seeing what the Lord has in store for me.
No, that's cool. Well, I'll definitely say you definitely do have a story and a message. Like, whatever the case is, you definitely do have a story and a message. As we've heard here today. So with the educational journey, do you see yourself in a classroom then? Like, do you eventually see yourself in a classroom?
I do. I hope to.
Mm-hmm.
Either in a classroom or like as a reading specialist, but like, you know, full time and with a degree.
Yeah, no, 100%. Do you see yourself working with all ages, or is there a specific age group you want to lean into?
That one has been hard for me. My heart really is for the middle schools, like for the middle schoolers. And when I say that, people are like, "Oh, you don't want to teach them." Someone's got to.
Someone's got.
That's where my life changed. And
Yeah.
middle school was brutal. Would never recommend to anyone, but I know we all have to face it. But would, like, 0 out of 10 would not recommend middle school. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's where my heart is. But also working with these elementary school kids, man, I just love my third graders and I love my fifth graders, and they're so different.
Yeah.
Like, I just, wherever the Lord puts me, I will teach them to the best of my ability.
Oh man, no, I appreciate hearing that, and it's cool. It's just cool hearing the like kind of full circle, you know, hearing your journey in middle school, and then seeing you like wanting to go back to that place
Yeah.
to bring some healing.
It's like I went all the way through school, continued school just to go back to school.
Precisely. Okay, so as we kind of come to the close of this pod, I kind of want to just give you a moment to bring some encouragement. I know you already kind of gave us a little snippet, but I want to give you some space to give some encouragement to someone who maybe is in college, maybe they're just starting off, maybe they deal with a little bit of the ADHD, dyslexia, maybe they're having challenges that they're going through and they didn't get the experience of the teacher in 6th grade, and they're kind of like, man, I really wish I could have experienced something like that. Do you have any encouragement for that individual, or some words of from your experience in life?
I'd say something that I have learned is that really, for me, the biggest piece of it, before even getting to like the ADHD and dyslexia stuff, is, I mean, I built up years of like negative self-talk on myself. And so before you can even like touch those, I don't want to call them problems, because I mean, it's the way my brain is made. But before you can even like get to that, you need to examine yourself and break down that wall first. And I mean, as silly as it may sound, like, do some self affirmations. Tell yourself that you're smart. Stop that negative inner voice. And make your mistakes loud, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I know that's like, everyone says that, but there's a reason everyone says that. And if you ask for help and someone says no to you or is rude to you, move on, because they're not the one. They're not the one that's going to help you. So go to the next.
Nah, for sure. And I love that you said kind of attacking the belief kind of system first before we talk about behaviors and all of that, talking about that belief system and what you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
Because it can dictate so much of what you do. It can even heighten some of the behaviors that we have.
Absolutely. Like, because I was afraid, because I struggled with reading, I wouldn't read in front of people. And because I wouldn't read in front of people, I wouldn't speak in front of people. I mean, the fact that I'm so comfortable in front of people, like I've not like a public speaker, but like I've gone and I've spoken a few times. And I mean, even with the podcast, like me just going, yeah, I could do that. That's insane. Like, little me is quaking in her boots. She's like, what do you mean we're going to go in front of people? And that confidence started to come when I started, like, not telling myself I could, but just being like, you are capable.
Yeah.
All these things that you're telling yourself, that you're not capable, that you're not smart, not intelligent, all those things, it's not true. Yeah. We have overcome that. And so I think sometimes, like, it's easy to overcome an obstacle, but then the next obstacle is like convincing your mind that you have moved on.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. And those words that you do share with yourself, when you do encourage yourself, it's like you want to be a good friend to yourself just as much as you would want to be a good friend to anyone else as
Right.
well.
Right.
And so,
And I mean, I'd like to say like something I like to tell people a lot, because when I tell them like, oh yeah, I have dyslexia, I get the reaction like, oh, I used to have dyslexia, but I grew out of it. And yeah, and like, and I laugh too, but like, I don't know, it's not something that goes away. But you don't grow out of it, you grow into it. You learn how you learn. Like you learn to learn how it's going to work for your brain.
yeah.
I didn't grow out of it. Like I still have tendencies. I'm still very directionally challenged. Like you need to point, don't tell me right or left. I won't know. But it's one of those things that it's like grow into it. And part of growing into it is accepting those things about yourself.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And it sounds like over the last several years that you've done so much growing
Yeah.
on this. I mean, and it sounds like you've accepted the help that was offered to you too, whether it was support from your parents or from your teachers
Yeah.
along the way. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
This was a great one. This is a good one. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. I know that y'all was encouraged by this one. I don't even have to I don't even have to hope. I know you was encouraged by this one. But definitely thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Emily, so much for coming out. This was such an encouragement to me. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how this pod just goes to bless other people as well down the road. And for those who are tuning in, if you would like to come on and share your story, we would love to have you on. And so feel free to fill out the Google form and we'll get y'all connected and get y'all sharing your story as well. And so until then, I hope that y'all stay blessed and that you see how you fit in the fitting room. Peace.
Do I do it too?
You can if you want.
Peace.
Oh, that's it.